My name's Alex, and today I want to talk about gang stalking through a different lens than people normally talk about it. So, if you don't know what gang stalking is when a targeted individual feels like they're being watched, followed, ganged up on by multiple people. There's a lot of talk that this often involves MK Ultra, potentially the military, maybe even strangers, people that they don't know. One thing I've heard is that people will supposedly come up to people and say something that only that person would know. So they're somehow sharing information that is supposed to be private. People often think their neighbors are involved and they're being followed. It's just a really, really scary thing. And then the scariest thing is that a lot of these people who are targeted individuals actually have some hard evidence that they're being followed. And I myself have had experiences with gang stalking and feeling like people are out to get me and that I've been prevented from truly expressing what I want to express, especially on the internet. I felt like I was shadow banned for a while on Instagram, even though I was working my butt off to post daily and do all the things that you're supposed to do to be seen. But my whole point in bringing this up today is because not only do I want to help you view it through a different lens if you are a targeted individual, but I want to share a little bit about my personal story and how I got out of it and how I flipped my thinking around to find more freedom and find a happier life away from all of this scary gang stalking. So, a lot of people, when they talk about gang stalking, I haven't seen any other creators so far talk about it from a law of attraction standpoint. Now, I am going to take inspiration from a few of my favorite law of attraction teachers that I've listened to over the years. My experience with the law of attraction started sometime in 2017 when I first had a spiritual awakening, or it was probably one of the first really deep layers of a spiritual awakening. Of course, I've had many spiritual awakenings over the years, and in each one I've learned something different about myself, but that one in particular is when I started to meditate. I stopped drinking, and I was really, really on a hardcore spiritual journey back then. So the first book I ever read and movie I ever saw that had to do with law of attraction was The Secret, and that's where a lot of people get started. But in my experience, it was actually really cool because back when I was drinking, when I had no knowledge whatsoever of the law of attraction, and I wasn't in a place to work on myself or take accountability for anything about my life, and I was still drinking and partying heavily with my friends. This was back in 2012, where I was at a bar downtown. I was drunk out of my mind, and I ended up in a bathroom stall, and it was one of those bathroom stalls where a lot of people wrote on the wall, and I saw this image that said, read The Secret. Whatever you think will happen, good or bad, will happen. It was something like that, but it struck a chord in me, so much so that I took a picture of it and then I made it my Facebook cover page. And I didn't read it anytime after that. It was a couple years before I would eventually read the book and actually look it up. But it's so remarkable to me now to look back on that and say, wow, the universe was showing me signs back then. I just wasn't ready back then, but I was ready enough to at least take a picture of it and be able to connect the dots and that synchronicity years later. So anyways, I wasn't ready to do any kind of real spiritual work on myself or take any accountability until I started meditating and until I stopped drinking, which allowed me the mental space to do so. Because when I was working a soul-sucking job and when I was drinking all the time and just staying busy, I didn't have time to meditate. I didn't have time to work on myself. And it was so easy when my life was full to blame something outside of me for why my life was the way that it was and why I felt the way that I felt. Not only that, but back then, when I was still seeing doctors, and whenever I would come to a doctor about my mental health, they always wanted to medicate me in some way. So in a way, that was kind of like a quick fix, or what I wanted to be a quick fix. But ultimately, my experience with medication was that even though I took it consistently, it may have helped me get, at least ADHD meds helped me get stuff done, but it drained my energy and it turned me into this robot with no personality who only cared about production. And I just don't like who I became on it. And then when I was on Wellbutrin and antidepressants years prior to that, in my late teens to early 20s, I didn't like how I was either, because I was numb and just, again, lack of personality, lack of creativity. So anyways, my point in telling you that is that I was still looking for something outside of me to blame. And how does this relate to gang stalking? In no way am I victim shaming, because I am a victim. I had this stuff happen to me, and I'm still not necessarily willing to tell you all the details of it, because it is a very real phenomenon that people are going through, and it's absolutely terrifying when you actually have hard evidence that people are following you or watching you. That being said, I still was able to tie this whole experience kind of with the law of attraction and find some peace in it. So it's still something that I kind of like struggle with a little bit back and forth. I have to consistently remind myself that those groups, those spiritual entities, energies, whatever, are only a reflection of me and the reality I'm creating, which is a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, because they're thinking, why would I create this for myself? Well, there's a lot of reasons, so let's talk about them. So not only do I want to, did I mean to talk about The Secret, because that's kind of like the law of attraction starter book. Some people think it's a little cheesy. The movie was a little cheesy, let's be real, but there's good value. There's a lot of value in it, right? And if you actually start applying some of those principles, then you'll be surprised at the little experiments that you do and how they actually start to show you that you're creating your own reality. So there's that book that I read, and then around the same time, I started listening to Abraham Hicks on YouTube, just a lot of their videos. And Abraham Hicks is a person who channels an entity or a group of entities. I don't know if she ever expands on it, but anyways, her teachings always resonated with me. And again, I'm not like a diehard Abraham Hicks. I'm not a diehard of anything fan. I like to take a little bit of knowledge and inspiration from a lot of different teachers. The saying, take what you like and leave the rest. So there's a lot of things I do like about Abraham Hicks, and a lot of things they helped me with. And I made a video, I think my last video, I talked about 5 books that changed my life, and one of them was Asking It Is Given. And it's so powerful that I manifested a red car, which they talk about in the book, and I wasn't even trying to manifest a car when I picked up that book. But I was reading about it, and they kept talking about how, oh, you're behind the wheel of the red car and you can feel it driving so fast. And I thought, probably because I didn't have an attachment to the red car, I didn't need a red car. I wasn't super attached to it. So I, for fun, just was like, maybe that would be nice to have a red car. Maybe, have a car that drives real smooth and fast. And at the time I was driving a Toyota Sienna minivan. And then out of nowhere, my minivan, I think at that time it was the alternator, and some guy who offered to help put the alternator in wrong, and it crashed the motherboard. So then it was like 10 times more expensive to fix, and it wasn't worth it. So then I was reading the book at the time and kept reading about red car. And then the craziest thing happened, because I knew I wanted a Toyota, and I was looking at all these Toyotas that were like $12,000, and they were all silver, gold, whatever. And then out of nowhere, I see one that is like $8,000 that is red. And I'm like, oh, that dealership's not far from me. And it's $4,000 cheaper. So I went there, and then I went with my mom, and we were able to talk him down to $7,300. So I got the car, the red one, and when I drove it, I was so shocked at how smooth it drove. So not only did we get it for like $5,000 less than all the other cars of the same year, make and model were selling for, but I got the red car. And I think I was able to manifest that because I wasn't like super attached to it. And I think at the time the universe was just showing me like, hey, there's something to this, you should pay attention. So not only did I manifest that, there's a bunch of other stuff that I manifested. Like I was dating a guy at the time, and he was a traveling musician, and I never wished that he wouldn't go on tour, but there was a part of me that was like, oh, I wish I could go with him. I know I'm going to miss him. So I wasn't actively like, I don't want you to go on tour or anything like that. But I was focused heavily on like, I want to date you. I want to spend more time with you. And I'm sad. I wasn't focused on the sadness of being apart, but I was focused on the enjoyment that I felt when we would hang out all the time leading up to his trip. And then out of nowhere, something happened where he wasn't allowed, or he wasn't able to go to the tour. So he had to reschedule and cancel. And then we ended up dating. So there's a lot of power to this stuff, especially when you don't necessarily have an attachment to the outcome. So that was my first experience with the law of attraction and some of Abraham Hicks' teachings, and like I realized how powerful they were. And then I started exercises like scripting, where I would write before I went to bed, like the ideal version of who's Alex. Like Alex has like the ideal version of myself is tan with like bright blonde hair, and I look fit, but you know, I'm still curvy. And then I remember like I wrote down the visual image of myself, and then literally not even a month later, like within a couple of weeks, like I started to morph into that version of myself that I saw in my head. So it's just super crazy. And another thing I contribute to the success of my manifestations around that time, or that I was going to AA meetings a lot. And I think the thing that AA meetings did for me, not only did they get me outside of myself where I was around people, but we were focused on spiritual development and spiritual growth. So there was always positivity that I felt when I went to the meetings. I knew I was working on myself, but it took me outside of myself. So there was no time to obsess over the results of the things that I was hoping to manifest. And then I was also spending a lot of time meditating when I wasn't at meetings, and in the other times I wasn't meditating or going to meeting, I was creating jewelry and crafting a lot, which also kind of puts you in a meditative state. So my mental state was really clear, and I haven't been to a meeting in a long time. I'm still sober, but haven't been to a meeting. I live pretty far away from them, but I still haven't really been able to get back to that, or I feel like I haven't been able to get back to that place of manifestation, the clarity of my manifestations when I had something to keep me busy and distracted, because I spend a lot more time alone now. And I find that when you're spending more time alone, if you don't have something to distract you or other things that you're focused on, it can be hard not to focus on the result of what you're trying to manifest. So the third law of attraction teacher that has made me believe in this theory is Bashar. And again, it's another one of those entities or, you know, people where I'm like, take what you like and leave the rest. Bashar is not for everybody, but there's a lot of value in what Bashar talks about. Bashar is another channel who gets a little goofy when he channels and like, you know, closes his eyes and like does a whole act, which, you know, I'm sure some people are like thrown off by that. But if you listen to the words, like I'll listen to his stuff and a lot of it does resonate. But Bashar's theory, or Bashar's advice for humanity, is to follow what you want with, I'm not good at paraphrasing, guys. But it's like it's essentially to follow your greatest passion without any attachment to the outcome or the how, to the best of your abilities in every given moment. And they talk about how we're constantly shifting from parallel universe to parallel universe. And I have been able to prove this to myself so many times. Like there have been times when I've been physically ill, like I think I'm coming down with a cold, or I feel really sick. So I literally will go in bed and meditate, and I'll put on solfeggio frequencies, and I'll just clear my mind and empty my mind for, 30 minutes or an hour. And I wake up and I literally feel like I'm in a different reality. Like the sickness is gone. I'm not kidding. I don't know if I should say this, but I don't even have the need to go to the doctor because I never get sick, knock on wood. But it's been such a weird phenomenon. Like the more I focus on my mental and my mental health and just staying in peace all the time to the best of my ability and following my passion to the best of my abilities, like I don't have to worry about the things I used to worry about, versus like 10 years ago when I was full of anxiety and I didn't understand that I created my own reality. I didn't understand how to work with my ESP. I was always sick because I was always anxious because I was working a soul-sucking job. I didn't like how I looked. I was eating a bunch of junk food and not treating my body with respect. I was drinking like so much. So all those things combined just made me a person that was out of control because I was desperately trying to have something else, control my life, because that's what drinking was about for me. Like drinking was like, I don't feel like I'm trying too hard to manage my life right now, so when I drink I can take a step back and it's just about having fun, right? And a lot of people have that mentality when they drink because they're trying to manage and control everything in their life rather than co-create with the universe. So this was a long way to get back to the gangstalking topic, but it's important to show you a well-rounded picture of why I believe in those teachers, and how I was able to prove some of these law of attraction things to myself. So my experience with gang stalking happened a couple of years ago, where I met some mysterious people who were supposedly, according to them, part of a secret society, or they told me that other people I was hanging out with was part of a secret society. And they were always talking about all the different types of secret societies. They were obsessed with conspiracies. This one guy I would stay on the phone with for like 4 hours and talk about conspiracies. So what did that do? That put my mind in a fearful state, always worried that the government and people were out to get me. So it was implanting seeds. Not only that, but because that group of people was all about having fun and smoking the MJ and like going to bars and drinking and doing comedy and like all these places where people are going to be around substances. If you go to the barber, you're going to get your hair cut, right? So I was hanging out with this group of people and it started to become normal. So I risked and ruined my sobriety at the time because I thought I could just be casual, smokers and drinkers with this group of people. So I started smoking, and because I have addictive tendencies, it went from casually, hitting one like from time to time to all of a sudden now I'm doing it full time. I'm a full-blown customer and I'm smoking all times, all hours of the day, using it medicinally and for spiritual purposes. But I couldn't be honest with myself that I really was just trying to escape reality and like have a spiritual experience that honestly I've never been able to get when I was doing that stuff. The most powerful experiences I've ever had spiritually have been when I was sober, but maybe that's just me. Anyway, because of the chemicals and their effect on my mind, I was more susceptible to this mental programming from this conspiracy nut. So I started to actually run into this type of stuff in my reality. Okay, so somebody planted a seed and then that seed started to grow. Not to mention that I had a parody podcast about exposing the Illuminati where I was doing improv acting, and then my improv acting started to come true. It was absolutely terrifying. So now I'm like, I love acting, I love creativity, but I won't do things like horror movies or anything like that because I believe I'm a powerful manifestor. If you put your head in the right space for a long time, I don't know, I've been pretty amazed with the things that have manifested around me just by acting the part. So anyways, I believe just the fact that my whole podcast was a parody improv podcast about the Illuminati, like exposing them, all in fun and games, right? But then all of a sudden I started meeting people who were involved in these secret organizations, and then I started experiencing different kinds of gang stalking and people spying on me, and then people trying to make me go to satanic concerts, literally forcing me to go against my will, and then bad things happening to me, literally coming face to face with a demon at my house who I felt was following around. I was gifted with shirts that had literally a demon sigil on it, like a sigil that meant the word demon, that was hand painted, but it looked like a popular shirt that you would find in like a Hot Topic or a Spencer's or something. But this one, the sigil was hand painted, and I started having like a really negative attachment or negative entity and like nightmares, that kind of stuff happening when I wore the shirt, which was gifted to me from a friend. And then somebody else gifted me with a shirt from their friend who committed unaliving. So both shirts, I started literally feeling an attachment when I brought them home. So all of that stuff was evidence to me that this stuff was real. Not to mention, I usually fall asleep with something playing on my phone, like either a meditation on YouTube or something, but YouTube will play the next video often. So my phone would often be playing all night, and then out of nowhere, I would wake up in the middle of the night to a tarot reading that would be like, oh, there's the group gang stalking you, and there's this name, and there's this name, which was the same name as somebody in the group that I believed was gang stalking me, and then they were able to describe the person's physical appearance in these tarot videos. So that was more evidence that, oh my God, is this stuff real? Are these people watching me? So this was a cycle for like literally about 2 years, and then it culminated to this point where I was involved with the same group who had supposedly a lot of people who were part of the secret society in the local community. Then somebody got kicked off a show that we were producing, and then sent some people to the show to follow us, and I don't want to share details, but basically it was this guy was harassing me and defamation of character and all this stuff. And right after that show, after there was a lot of evidence that they used the show as part of a ritual, my car died, and my car has been dead for 9 months. So I stayed inside my house for about 9 months, terrified that these people were following me, because not only did my car break down after the show, they sent another woman to follow me at this place that I told one person I would be at. And then what do you know? He must have told the other guy who he's friends with now, and they sent this woman to me and who's trying to offer me money and be a part of a project that I'm working on. But because I'm vigilant, because I learned a lot from the previous gang stalking experiences and the techniques that they use to infiltrate you or to flatter you or to like love bomb you, which I've talked about in other videos, and NLP, I was able to put all those things together and say, okay, that feeling in my gut that felt like this person was sketchy, well, they're using all the same tactics that those other people use, so I think it's a good idea to start ignoring their phone calls. So anyways, all of that fear kept me inside, and it kept me from sharing my truth for a long time. And what I came to realize very recently, I went through a period in March, April, and May where this stuff was coming up very heavily for me. I started having the nightmares again because I kind of like forgot about it for a while and was focused on growing my Instagram and growing my animal sanctuary. So I kind of had forgot about the gang stalking, or not forgot about it, like it was still in the back of my mind. I'm still very vigilant about who's watching me on social media and like making sure I block these people. So the activity kind of slowed down for a little bit, but then it started ramping up again back in March, which was the start of the Zodiac New Year. And a lot of these, if there really were secret society people following me, like, yeah, they were doing rituals around that time with the astrology. That's what secret societies do. That's, anyone who has read a SRA survivor story or like worked with these groups or part of the group or whatever, like you probably know that. So anyways, the activity started happening back around that time. I started getting the nightmares again. I did have some nightmares actually. I had a handful of nightmares, actually 2 really terrifying ones that literally, I don't even think I want to share them, but I had 2 terrifying dreams that basically showed me what was going to happen and who these people really were. And it prevented me from going to an event with these people that they were really adamant about me attending. And in retrospect, I know exactly why I wasn't supposed to go. And I'm so thankful that I had those dreams because they were literally warning me. So I didn't, it saved me from potential participation in these types of rituals without my knowledge or consent. And so my intuition was tuned in, even though I wasn't fully aware. There was something that was protecting me from going to those places or hanging out with certain people. And then the tarot readings at 3 or 4 in the morning started talking again, and all this stuff started blowing up in my YouTube feed, which, again, I don't know if that was a law of attraction thing. I don't know if it was an astrology thing with my natal charts and like just the themes I was going through back in March personally. I don't know if it was some tech thing where these people had hacked into my text somehow, or just the algorithm and how it works. You watch one video about like witches and warlocks, and then now your whole feed is about how a secret society and a cult is out to get you. So part of the problem was that I was entertaining that stuff partially out of boredom, probably because I was home alone and not much else going on. And I have a vivid imagination to begin with. So I probably fed into it a little bit like, oh, is somebody really after me? But there was obviously something inside of me that felt not safe in this world. And honestly, that feeling probably stems back a long time ago, probably from childhood, probably from the GATE and the Gifted program, probably from all my experiences in my teens and my 20s, having neurodivergence and like going to doctors and being treated like a friggin' lab rat and given medication after medication to make me feel better, whatever. So there was always some inherent belief that I wasn't safe, that I wouldn't get the chance, like I'm never going to be understood, right? So I believe in the law of attraction. I temporarily forgot about it at this time because I fell victim to this fear which it was pure fear, because I was able to prove to myself that the fear was real and founded because of the evidence, because of my car, because of the people following me on social media, because of that lady that showed up at that event that followed me, because of the dreams I was having, because of all the synchronicities. But the crazy thing about law of attraction is like, law of attraction, if you give your attention to something for 17 seconds, you're going to start getting another thought. And then another 17 seconds goes by, and then you're thinking about the same thing, and it's charging and magnetizing those thoughts. So then eventually those thought streams are going to get so powerful that you're going to start drawing physical evidence, and then it's going to reaffirm the thoughts that you're having, what's going to keep you stuck in the reality. You're going to use the physical evidence, start using the physical evidence to confirm and reaffirm the reality that you're in. So I was literally falling victim to this fear. I temporarily lost contact with I didn't ever lose contact with my higher power, but I allowed myself to become victim to the fear, especially because months prior I was still going to the dispensary a lot and using their products. So I was just kind of in this space where I was vulnerable and I was allowing myself to be a little bit out of control. But I thoroughly believe everything has as a purpose. And I know for a fact that my experience with this stuff was preparing me to have not only a bigger platform, but to actually make a difference in other people's lives. And I want to tell you how I shifted it. So what shifted all these experiences with gang stalking? Well, one was a conversation with my mentor who I was telling her how, I was terrified. I was telling her about all this stuff, and she, bless her heart, listened to me and was a great sounding board for me telling her about all this fear. And she was like, well, 3 or 4 in the morning is a time in Chinese medicine where your liver's detoxing it, and it can cause a lot of experiences with anxiety. It literally can cause anxious thoughts while your body's detoxing. And if you think about all the stuff that we're detoxing, you can eat the cleanest diet, but I mean, even the organic fruits and vegetables, they're putting crap on them, and your body is resilient. It can heal itself, but it's got to go through some detoxing. So when it goes through that detoxing, it's only natural for you to have symptoms of anxiety. But the second she told me that, and I realized, you know what, I have been drinking 2 cups of coffee daily. And I'm drinking coffee until about 4 in the afternoon. So of course that's messing with my sleep because I'm not able to get the full deep REM cycle or whatever. And I stopped with that second cup of coffee. I started watering my coffee down and drinking it earlier in the day. And I stopped waking up at that time to those creepy videos, and a lot of the nightmares that I had been having also went away. So it was as simple as having somebody physically tell me this could be a physical symptom. It's not necessarily a spiritual thing you're interpreting it. That not only made a huge difference, but at the same time that I was working with her, I was also really getting back into the law of attraction and this process called scripting, where you're scripting out what your future self wants to live and what qualities does your future self have, and just using different law of attraction techniques. And this is so crazy. I wanted to make a separate video about this, but I made, right before my YouTube channel started gaining traction, I was writing something about a viral video and what it would feel like to have a viral video and what it would feel like to have content that resonated with so many people. And I was envisioning people messaging me thank you from the bottom of my soul. I finally feel seen. Thank you for giving me a space for this. And then I would listen to it. I recorded it in my own voice and I played it. I paired it with some meditation music. I actually have one for content creators on my channel. It only has 29 views, but this stuff is so powerful, and affirmations are even more powerful when you say them in your own voice and when you listen to them before bed, and if you pair them with a solfeggio frequency or some kind of music or sound that is compatible with our natural DNA, so 432 hertz or 528 hertz or 963 for the crown chakra. You can use different frequencies and play around with it. So I recorded this affirmation in my own voice. I listened to it a handful of times before bed, maybe for a week, and then I just kind of moved on and forgot about it. And then I just started, kept with the formula that Bashar talks about, not necessarily trying to, but just naturally getting back into the flow state, because I quit smoking back in January. So right before all this stuff was coming to a head. And part of the anxious symptoms can also be from quitting something, because your body wants to stay in homeostasis. So oftentimes people who are going through recovery from alcohol or pot or whatever they're going in recovery from, usually a couple months in is when your body is really starting to detox and get used to not having the substance. So those those symptoms that are physical can appear to be spiritual in nature and vice versa. So it's all connected, but because our emotions are what draws those experiences to us. So if your body is physically having some kind of symptom that's keeping you in stress, keeping you in fear, keeping you in anxiety because of the substances you're consuming, or because you're having too much coffee, or because you're not really paying attention to your diet, or because you have a job that's really stressful and there's always anxiety, or because you're in charge of raising a family and your spouse is cheating on you, or like there's so many stressors that we have to deal with. But if you've got all those stressors and then on top of it now you're being gang stalked, look at where those other stressors are coming from, because those emotions are magnetizing experiences for you. So that's why mind, body, and spirit all work together. Mind, body, and spirit. So our body has the physical symptoms, the mind has the mental symptoms and kind of like the emotional body, and then the spirit is how it all comes together. That's how I'm interpreting it anyway right now. But so yeah, so all of the gang stalking experiences for the most part have stopped, and I don't wake up in paralyzing fear in the middle of the night. But ever since I did those law of attraction exercises where I recorded affirmations in my own voice and listened to it before bed when your brain is the most susceptible to programming, I started switching to a new reality where my YouTube channel was finally starting to gain traction after a handful of years of trying this. I'm finally connecting with people that I feel like are actually resonating with my content, and vice versa. I'm finally feel like I can show myself without fear, and I'm like, not too afraid to be seen anymore. I've lost a lot of those insecurities that I had before, like, well, what if I sound stupid, or like, what if I look ugly? Like, I'm literally, my viral video, or the one that is still gaining a lot of views, I have no makeup on. I'm literally in my PJs in bed, and my hair is not probably even combed, and I have a hat on. So it's like, doesn't matter what you look like. And if anything, like, trying to get too dressed up to make a video in a lot of cases can almost make you look too like not so relatable to people. So it's like, okay, if you're like a little ugly or disheveled, because then you're a real person who sits around in their PJs all day because they don't feel like lifing that day. I don't know. Anyways, you'll see all different shades of Alex on this channel, because sometimes I like to wear makeup and fix my hair, and sometimes I just don't. And sometimes the thought streams that I want to share will hit me at other times. I'll be like, I have to share this now. I don't have time to get ready. I'm just going to share it because it's not about me. It's not about what I look like. It's about the message. So yeah, anyways, I hope, the point of this video was to give anybody hope, anyone who feels like they've been followed or gang stalked. And even if they have hard evidence with this stuff, maybe, to open up their mind to a new perspective, maybe start experimenting with the law of attraction and taking radical accountability for your life, and like asking yourself the deep, hard questions. Why am I attracting this? Why do I feel in my body like people are out to get me? Why am I a vibrational match to this experience? And for me, I was able to look at that experience as something that empowered me, something that changed me to my core, that gave me a confidence I never had before I had that experience. And yes, I was locked up in my house for like 2 years, afraid to go in public, afraid to see people, no car, no finances, literally had no money, and like had to humbly, like so embarrassingly, like ask my parents for help. So embarrassing at my age to do that. But I was able to overcome that situation. Now things are starting to turn around, and it all stems with me. I needed that period of really bad isolation so I could do some serious soul searching. The fear taught me. Fear is your greatest gift. Fear is your greatest teacher. The fear from gang stalking made me feel like I was going to lose my life. What's the worst that can happen? I'm unalived and I get switched back to a new simulation and start this thing all over again. Or maybe I go to the place that everybody else sees when they have a near-death experience, where they're in the most comforting experience of love. And then I get to go see all my dogs that have been unalived over the years. And, it's just all about the bigger picture and how you look at it. Do you believe that the universe is a dangerous, scary place? Because if you do, that's what's going to happen. Do you believe that we're moving towards a society where there's going to be drones and AI controlling us? If you believe that, you're going to be flipped into a reality where that happens, because your mind is that powerful. If you believe the world is a safe place and that this collective awakening is happening for a reason, and we're waking up at the same time because good things are happening, then good things are going to happen. If you think the rapture is a good thing, and then good things are going to happen. If you think the rapture is a bad thing and that demons are going to fall from the sky, then who knows? You might actually manifest that. Like, what you watch, what you listen to, what you program yourself with is so important now more than ever, because we live in a world of infinite possibilities. And the double slit experiment that I talk about in my other videos, in the Montauk Point video, part 1, and the quantum computers, this stuff is real. You just have to prove it to yourself. There's another book called I don't know what the other book is called, so I can't tell you, but there's this other law of attraction book that was written a handful of years ago where I've heard they give you like 9 exercises to practice. It's like EMC squared or something, E squared. I don't know. So if anybody knows, please feel free to add this. But there's people are saying that there's exercises in that book, and they tried the exercises, like one of the exercises being like, think of a green car, a lime green car. And then all of a sudden they start seeing lime green cars everywhere. So it's like, oftentimes, like, to prove yourself that you create your own reality, it's good to start with things that you have no attachment to. Like, I'm going to find a penny today on the ground, or like, I'm going to find $1 somewhere. I don't know where, but I'm going to find $1, because it doesn't matter if you find that dollar or not. That's not going to change your life. But then you find it usually when you forget about it. So that's like the first step in reality creation, and understanding that you create your reality. And then the secret to staying in a higher vibration and staying in a good reality, and like using the law of attraction to your advantage, is recognizing that even the bad things that happen are happening for your highest good. If you believe they are, you will always be able to extract the gold from that experience. And you'll also always be able to look back on your life and say, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have done this. And if this didn't happen, I wouldn't have done this. So at the end of the day, there's nothing to fear except for fear itself. You're more powerful than the fear. Why do you think every single video that is spiritual in nature, why does God always win? Why do the angels always win? Seriously. Seriously, seriously, seriously. And if you need a good movie to watch, one of my favorite movies that that happens in is The Hideaway with Jeff Goldblum and Alicia Silverstone. I really like the ending of, or I don't know if it's the ending, but it's a part of that movie that kind of, is all about that. It's all about spirituality, and love wins. Love is a bigger vibration than fear. It literally goes up in a spiral. Fear, shame, guilt, anger, resentment, acceptance, willingness, enlightenment, love, joy. That's not verbatim what the emotional guidance scale is, but there's literally an emotional guidance scale that's shaped like a spiral, and at the smaller end of the spiral is fear, and it's the smallest vibration, which is why your body contracts when you feel fear. But when you feel joy, when you feel love, you feel expansive. You have the ability to spread that joy to others, and you feel larger than life, and then you attract more opportunities to you, and life is good. So whatever you can do if you're a victim of gang stalking and all this stuff, I know how important it is for somebody to validate your story, because I needed somebody to validate mine too. But would you rather be right, or would you rather be happy? I'd rather be happy. So I, at some point just kind of like let that stuff go, and just stop telling myself the story that people are going to try to unalive me if I leave my house, or if I do X, Y, or Z, or if I put myself out there on YouTube. But I'm here now, and hopefully I'll stay here, and I have no intentions to unalive myself. So just saying. Yeah, okay. That feels like a good place to end. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.